Good day, welcome back to my neck of the woods. My name is Dika, where I share my experiences, my knowledge, to hope and lessen your learning curve along the way. So today, I'm going to talk about another controversial subject about bed fishing, whether or not it's right or wrong. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with some sort of main theories about why people don't like it, why people think that it shouldn't be done. Then I'm going to mix in some facts and some studies that people have studied and done research over the years, and then I'm going to finish off with one reason why I think bed fishing should be done. Before I get started, please subscribe to my page. If you like this content, if you like controversial stories, kayak videos, hunting videos, and of course product reviews. I do a lot of product reviews. Please subscribe to my page because that's what you're going to get. You're going to get a lot of that. Try to do 2 to 3 videos a week. All right, so the main reason why people do not like bed fishing, and these are fishermen expressing their thoughts. It's because of the spawn. It's because it fulfills the next generation of bass fishing. They believe that you should leave it the heck alone. Leave it alone. You should not upset it. You should not upset the fish. The fish are already under tremendous stress guarding their beds. And some of these fish that we pull off the beds, and this is a study, they die because of being overstressed. They're already on high alert, guarding their beds from predators, or predators to the fry, not predators to the bass, but predators. There's bluegills and other bait fish and whatever other critters are roaming around that body of water that want to eat those fry. So when we pull them off the beds, we stress them out even more. And if any of us have done any research about bass fishing, I'm talking about bass fishing, but this applies to all fishing and bed fishing, is when we pull them off the beds, we're creating a tremendous stress level in these fish, elevated stress levels, which they're already at, as opposed to the outside of spawn where we just catch a fish and we create stress levels in these fish. But from what I understand in the studies out there, they don't die. They're very resilient. They deal with, especially in Massachusetts, they deal with water temperature changes and oxygen levels, so they're very resilient to stress. But people believe that bed fishing stresses them out so much that a lot of the fish die, which in turn hurts the next generation of bass fishing. So to create a scenario here, we have a fish on a bed, and you are a fisherman and you see this giant female or male, whatnot. It's usually a big fish on the bed. You see them on the bed and you can't resist, so you dangle something in front of them and you try to catch them. Now what we're doing, in theory, this is a study, so one thing we do is when we drag the lure or the bait or whatever we're trying to catch them with across the bed is similar to like a sterile field in the medical sort of medical profession. You don't want to touch it. It doesn't need to be touched. That's why they hover over it and they move things around. So you take the fish off the bed. The first thing that does is that opens up that bed. It opens up that bed for something to come in, swoop in, and eat those fry. Secondly, you take that fish, you catch it, and then you take it out of the water. So those two stresses are moderate by themselves, never mind being during the spawn when they're already stressed. Take them out of the water, and what do we do with the fish? If you're a tournament angler, that goes in your live well. That fish does not go back to the bed. So it goes in your live well until you weigh in. Unless you have something like the Major Leagues of Fishing, where they'll weigh it on camera and it goes back in the water. But even then, it's out of the water. So if you're a non-professional or a bass angler that is using live wells, that fish does not go back on that bed. It stays in that live well, and you can basically kiss that bed goodbye because all those fry are going to be eaten. If you're a kayak angler, you put it on your board and you measure it, and then you throw it back in. Even so, it's a good amount of time out of the water that fish is not on the bed. So, does this hurt the next generation of fishing? Studies say it does, and it puts a damper on what people think about bed fishing. So food for thought. Take that into consideration. Now, the next section of it is, should there be a fishing season, like there's a hunting season, where you don't fish for these bass or these fish during the time when they're sort of giving birth. We don't do that in hunting seasons, like deer hunting. I'm an avid deer hunter. We don't go out and harvest deer when they're giving birth, because first of all, the fawns wouldn't be able to survive without the mother. They're feeding off the mother. Same thing with turkey. They need this sort of, they need this sort of parenting at the beginning part of their life, this nurturing. And fish do too. And that's proven that even when the fry are born, the parents still watch over them. Which brings me to my next point. So the study is, one of these studies, and it's done by Fish and Wildlife, that when we take them off the beds, they don't go back to the beds. Some do, but a lot of them don't go back to the beds that they have seen. And some of them even die because the stress levels are through the roof. So does that help our next generation of bass? And knowing this information, I would say no. So, like I said, there's potential consequences for bed fishing. And I say potential because they're not proven yet. They're still studying this. So do we create a fishing season to ensure the preservation of our fisheries? Now, it hasn't happened yet, but we don't know. Well, we do know. We do know that the studies are saying that there are less and less fish in our fisheries. Now, whether or not that's from bed fishing, or from overfishing, or from disease, or from pollution, we don't know. There are way too many variables. So there's a fact about bed fishing. This is a fact. So 5% of spawning bass bed in less than 8 feet of water, which means the majority of the fish that are bedding we don't see. There's no sight fishing, so you don't know that you're pulling them off of beds. I always thought that all the beds that you see around, like you see them around islands, you see around the shoreline, I thought that was there were only beds, but it's not the case. That's only 5% of the spawn that we do this to. So, taking that into consideration, and the people that are pulling them off beds, they're all sight fishing. They're not trying to pull. Excuse me. You're not trying to pull a bass off a bed in 10 feet of water or 12 feet of water that you can't see. It's usually clear water right on the edge where you're doing this. And now I'm talking about the tournament angler. The tournament angler, if they've chosen to hone this skill of bass fishing off beds, their sort of life depends on whether or not they get that big fish. Because getting those big fish are going to sort of pay out for them. It's going to change their income. It may be whether they win or they don't win, or they place in the money. Like I said, it's very difficult to resist that giant fish on a bed. It's hard for me, and I'm not a competitive angler. Now imagine if you were a competitive angler and getting that big fish, or many of those big fish during the spawn. That may encourage you to sort of hone that skill and get to it. Another part of bed fishing, it's not against the law, which goes back to should there be a season for it. We don't know. But these are some of the things that I've talked about, and most of these are studies, and the only one that's a fact is about that 5% of bass spawn in less than 8 feet of water. Now, I have, and I don't know if this is a study, I don't know if this is a fact, but this is my input on bed fishing. I believe that bed fishing should be done in certain bodies of water, and this is why. I don't know if you've ever heard of the word carrying capacity, but the carrying capacity is the amount of food or resources that there are in a body of water to support a certain amount of life. Now, the earth has a carrying capacity. Every environment has a carrying capacity, but inside a lake, it's a closed environment, and the carrying capacity is essentially on a smaller scale. Like the bait fish feed the larger fish, the plants and plankton feed the smaller fish. It's all the food chain in there, but it's called a carrying capacity. So there are many fisheries that only produce small fish, dinks, 12 inches or smaller. And the fact behind this is the carrying capacity is either right on the cusp or the life has gone over the carrying capacity. So these fish that are only growing small, there's two choices, and it's probably both of them. There's either too many of them and there's not enough food for them to get bigger, or there's just not enough food to support them all to get bigger. It's the same thing on different sides of the scale. So if we removed some of the next generation coming in, would the future generation of fish be healthier and be able to grow and be bigger and be different sizes, which in turn would make a better fishery for fishermen? You decide. Obviously, I encourage anyone to put something in the comments and let me know what they think too. So about the carrying capacity, should this be something that Fish and Wildlife should be doing for these smaller fisheries? I mean, they do it for, they stock trout, they stock salmon, I don't know if they stock salmon, but they stock fish to make them better fisheries, and they're always, what I'm trying to say, they're always testing the water for pH, and obviously we're trying to get rid of pollution, everyone's trying to do that. But the Fish and Wildlife, should this be something else that they should be doing to make a better fishery? Should they be in during the spawn and just scooping up everything in the beds, and so the next generation is less to produce a better fishery? I'm not sure. It's not a bad idea, you know. It's not a bad idea. So you let me know what you think. That's all I have for you. Thanks for chiming in. If you watched the video this far, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And subscribe to my page. Like my videos and make some comments. And then until next time, I'll see you guys. Be well.